What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Career Mode. It is episode number 36. We are back with a brand new season, our 5th year at Portman Road getting underway today. Back in the Champions League, still on the hunt for our first major honour, and to start season 5, we have got a budget of... Okay, alright, and the reason I'm not as shocked is because it's basically what we had last year. Last year I think it was around 150 million, so I'm not too surprised it's once again astronomical. 186.7 million. I mean, I'm not going to say no. Yep, last season we of course began with a crazy budget, which was way more than I was expecting. I was thinking it would be about, I don't know, like 90 to 100 possibly. Even that would have been on the high side, if you will. But I'm not surprised it's gone a little bit up from last season. Your budget very rarely goes down from one season to the other. Maybe on certain rare occasions it does, but for the most part it's always going to be progressively getting better as the save goes on. And I think one of the reasons why we have been given these generous budgets by the board is because, well, A, we've risen in club stature massively. You know, we are now, of course, a Champions League team within our own right. Definitely no doubt about that. We deserve to be where we are. But also as well, like, if you look at the wage bill here, for a Champions League club, I mean, our wage bill is one of the lowest in the league. You know, I would argue it probably is one of the bottom 5 wage bills in the league. In fact, our highest earner is Amin Adli on, I believe, 75 grand a week. The next are Onana and Mudryk on 60, and these three only arrived last season. You know, in modern day football, you know, for a club in the Champions League, the majority of their starters are going to be on over 100k plus. We haven't even got to 100k yet. We haven't even got to 80 yet. So it makes sense why we are being given these good budgets by the board. With the prize money we're accruing, but also our wage budget being very good as well. But as we're running through the team for Season 5, we discussed this in the last episode at the end of the last season. For the new campaign, I don't really know exactly where we're going to be looking to invest. I am thinking possibly a new star centre-half, definitely for the new campaign, and maybe as well, as Doukouré still has that transfer request, I'll try and sell him in the summer, maybe a new star striker as well. We know, since this series began, our main problem, putting the ball in the back of the net. And last year, Amin Adli was in top 3 for scoring, he was in top 5 for assists, he was phenomenal, but whether he was partnered alongside David, or as Declan Fry has come back with the exciting prospect at 75 overall, he is worth keeping our eyes on. I must say, very exciting indeed. Liking to look at this young man. But, yeah, well, it was David or it was Delap. We didn't get that many goals from the strike partner of Amin Adli. But, yeah, that's definitely something I'm considering. Delap is out of contract coming the end of the season, but I don't want to let him go still. Yeah, there's actually a lot of players with their deals that come to the end of the year here. Wolfenden, Greaves, Delap, you know, all of the OGs, Gibbs White, Mumba, Clark, Hutchinson, and of course the youngster Moses Hassan as well. Looking down the list here, well, for sure I'm going to give Wolfenden a contract. He is right now a squad centre-half, 4th choice, and he still fills in and does a decent job when I ask him to. 29 years old, so not going to go down just yet. And of course, the key with Luke is that he's homegrown and trained by the club, so he meets that squad registration ruling. So we're definitely going to keep hold of him. Obviously, Morgan Gibbs White, definitely going to keep hold of him as well. He was sort of like the start, the first domino, if you will, of the big signings coming in here, buying into the long-term vision. He's changed his game from, well, first it was support striker, then it was wing, and now it's right through the middle, and he's been brilliant. And I'm probably going to give Hutchinson one as well, because I do like him, to be fair, even though his productivity isn't the best. And I'll give one to Moses Hassan as well. Of course, he's the big wonder kid here and going absolutely nowhere. But as for Greaves, Delap, Mumba and Clark, I like all 4 of them, but I'm not too sure. I think I'll give it a couple of weeks and decide what I want to do. All have got roles to play in this team, but all 4 of them are no longer guaranteed starters. Tough decisions there. And on the back of our wage increases, our budget does drop slightly. But before we think about new signings and bringing players in, what I want to do is know, are we playing Champions League football this year? Finished top 4 last season, but remember, we did of course see Chelsea win the Europa League. Does that mean they take our place, or are we still in it? We are indeed out of the Champions League because of Chelsea's win and dropping to the Europa League. Okay then. And domestically, our objectives reached the semis of the FA Cup. Haven't done that yet. First, we've got is the last 16 and win the title. End Man City's dominance of 10 in 11. Goodness gracious. This season's taken a twist. I expected this, to be fair, but I did not expect that league objective. Okay. Well, with that being the case, then we've got to start showing some ambition. I mean, if we want to challenge Manchester City, and I did say I'd like to be in a title race this season, we've got to improve the quality of this team, no doubt about it. And I think at centre-half, if we are going to sell Jacob Greaves, that'll leave us with 3. And one of them is, of course, a CM that we've converted to CB in Onana. I think we could do with a star centre-half to come in here. And there's several names on the shortlist. I'm very tempted to go after the player that I've said before has the best defensive awareness in FC, in my opinion, that is Bastoni. But last season, Bournemouth did get back to the Premier League via their win in the playoffs. But we're a Europa League side, they've only just got back in the Premier League. And Gonçalo Inácio, who I don't think I've ever used before, but he's one of the best centre-backs you can buy in FC. I'm going to say to him, mate, you're now 26, you cannot afford to not be playing European football. He's valued at 64 million. He's got incredible physical stats. He's quick enough to play in a high line, which we do, with 86 for jumping and strength. Mentally, he reads the game really well with 87 interceptions, and technically as well. Look at that. He fits our play style perfectly. The defensive stats are great, but what I'm really drawn to are this: 92 ball control, 86 long pass and 92 short pass. Passing out from the back as an LCB to replace Greaves, our LCB. This guy fits our system perfectly. Let's bring him in. This is one of those situations where, as I've said before, a player like this dropping down to the Championship, maybe he's grown a couple of ratings in the second tier, but why would he have been satisfied playing second tier football? Surely he would have thrown his toys out of the pram, being what would have been 25 years old, and knowing he needs to be playing top level football, let alone second tier. This guy's good enough to be a starter in most Champions League contender teams. Why would it be okay just sat playing in the Championship? But this is the intelligence that EA really need to work on for the transfer market. I don't think we have to pay as much money as the chief exec suggests, but I think it will have to be slightly over the valuation. And they say 92.9 mil, but I don't think we need to pay that much. I really don't. I think we can get away with around 72.5 to 75 million pounds. But Bournemouth think otherwise. And we could always swap them Jacob Greaves, but I like him. I like him a lot. So I'd rather not. And we could actually swap them Jack Clark as well. Clark, of course, out of contract coming the end of the season. And as we know, out of contract and no longer a starter in this team. He's now probably 5th choice winger, I'd say, or 4th choice even. I might do that. Because in my Bournemouth save, if you remember, he was the star in that one. So why not? 72 mil plus Jack Clark. I think that's a good deal for both parties, personally. And Bournemouth say, yeah, I will take it. We're getting a world-class centre-half, and they get a winger out of contract coming the end of the season that's good enough for their level. That's a mutually beneficial deal. Jack Clark was the star of my Bournemouth and Liverpool career mode last year, and an absolutely phenomenal winger that became world-class. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out in this save. He had some problems with injuries in the end, lost his place, and thus I don't think we'll regret swapping him out to Bournemouth, especially because it softens the transfer fee for the player we've brought in. World-class centre-half on a 5-year, 100 grand a week contract. I always say, you remember your first player, you put on 100 grand a week when you're doing an RTG, and I think this contract is pretty justified, because whilst he was playing second-tier football last season, he's good enough for Champions League star-quality teams, and whilst we might drop to the Europa League, I believe he'll get us back to prime time for next season. Yet welcome to Portman Road on a club record transfer, Gonçalo Inácio. And when you look at this guy's stats, man, like I said, it's the perfect fit for our play style. I mean, there were so many world-class centre-halves we could have gone for, but as we saw last season with Amin Adli, it's not about who's the highest rated or the absolute best. It's who fits your system perfectly. And this guy with the passing stats are still getting better. Can you imagine this guy with 99 short pass? We'd never have a problem playing out from the back, and you know how important it is to get your passing right in Issues FC with the fact you don't get as much of a helping hand as you used to from the game. He's still getting better in the prime of his career in his mid-20s. I mean, honestly, I'm probably just going to keep him on balanced right now because I'm loving the stats and they're going up equally as well. What a signing this is to hopefully take us to the next level. He is going to be a baller. And obviously now we've dropped to the Europa League, not the Champions League. I'd imagine some of the bigger clubs will begin circling for some of our star players, such as Christiansen and obviously the captain Davis as well. And Victor, of course, signed a new extension last season, but for Davis, I think he signed an extension 2 years ago, but not last season, and he's not happy with his contract either. So in order to keep the captain happy, he's still getting better at 28 years old. Good enough for most Champions League teams. I'm going to say once again, and this is something I do encourage as well, you don't have to give new contracts if you don't want to, but if you're a rising club and you've got some star players, to keep them happy, look at the player status in the squad hub. If they've got a red thumbs down on the contract, kind of create a narrative in your mind and say, maybe they'd be considering requesting a transfer unless you give them a little bit more money. So that's what we're going to do. He's on 50 grand a week right now. And again, he's got 2 years. He can't be poached away on a free transfer, and he's not requested a transfer, but he's unhappy with his contract. So to me, this is always something I encourage doing, just to keep it realistic, but also add a bit more of an element of a challenge as well. So there's no need to do this, but again, it just makes it a bit more realistic. And again, there's a little bit more of a challenge to it. So we'll give an extra 25 grand a week to 75 grand a week, plus a big sign-on bonus for the loyalty as well. And the skipper says yes. That'll quash any possible rumours of a transfer request. Davis is staying here. Whoa, hang on a second. I didn't even get notified of that. What? We've had bids for Doukouré from Atalanta and Monaco. And Joey Jones was also wanted by Swansea. But I didn't even get notified of that. What? What? How can I negotiate with you if I'm not notified of it? EA have got to work on it. I just had 2 bids for Doukouré. I would have accepted both of them, but I didn't even know about them. Honestly, man, EA have got to work on this. I said before, the menus, I'm starting to get to grips with them a little bit, but the bugs and the lack of notifications for transfers, that's got to change. Well, there's another one coming in from Brentford. The thing is that I don't want to sell him to a Premier League rival because I really like him. I'd rather sell him outside of England if possible, but I wasn't even notified of those 2 bids. That's ridiculous. But yeah, Doukouré is definitely going to go. Another bid there coming in from Wolves. Again, I'm going to try and sell him outside the Premier League, so I don't want to sell him to a division rival, but that's so annoying from EA, man. Seriously. I don't know how they haven't fixed that yet. We've had a couple of updates, we've had a couple of patches, but clearly this is still a bug which they haven't fixed. 2 offers I didn't get notified of, and then typically the 3 offers from Premier League sides where I don't want to sell him to have all came through to me. There's an interesting bid, one coming for Jake O'Brien. Now, I have to say, since we've brought in Gonçalo, I'm imagining that one of O'Brien or Greaves will be going. The question is, who's it going to be? I like them both, you know, both tall, both comfortable on the ball, but one of them's going to have to go. Naturally, you probably look at Greaves being out of contract coming the end of the season, but Jake O'Brien's been a solid pickup for us. I do like him, I do. But if you look at the players, again, both of them are 27 years old, both in the prime of their career, both at 80 overall. And Greaves left-footed, O'Brien right-footed. I mean, really, it's my choice. Is Greaves still growing? He is. Is O'Brien? He's not. Interesting. And who's on the higher contract? Jake. Huh. Well, he's had 2 good years with us, O'Brien. I like him a lot, but to definitely get first-team football, which he's not getting now, I'm not against letting him go. I'm certainly going to consider that. But for now, I'll just think about it. So there's another bid coming in there. Who's this one for? Doukouré from Bologna. Okay, there we go. And we will be able to sell him outside of England after all. It's just, I never like to strengthen a division rival. And don't get me wrong, like, obviously we're trying to be a top 4 team. We haven't had a bid from a traditional top 6 team. But even so, I'd rather sell him outside of the country so I know I won't have to face him, because he's a good player. If it was up to me, I'd try and talk him round. It's one of the frustrating things about career mode. When a player hands in a transfer request, you can't negotiate with them. Once they've handed it in, that's it. Their mind's made up. Man, I don't want to sell Jake O'Brien, though. That's the thing. I like him. I really like him. He might not be growing as much now with a 6'6". He's just a giant of a centre half. And whenever I put him in the team, he normally has a good game. I don't have to send. That's the thing. He hasn't requested a transfer or anything. Maybe I can try and negotiate a new contract, put him on a rotation in squad role. I guess we'll see. But there is the end of Doucouré's tenure as an Ipswich Town player. I really like him, but this is also something I want EA to work on. When a player hands in a transfer request, you have 0 opportunity to try and talk them round. Whilst you don't have to sell them if they're still under contract, they're always going to be unhappy that you're keeping them against your will. Doukouré off though for £20 million, and we'll take the profit on the Frenchman. And now that he has gone, I wouldn't mind bringing in a new central midfielder for the squad, if not to start as well. And there's some great names on the shortlist here. I must say I'm quite keen on Andre Santos at Chelsea. Obviously, really good young talent, but I'm not sure how much game time he's going to get. Though, of course, don't forget now, Chelsea have taken our place in the Champions League. He's 83 overall at 24. I'm pretty sure he'd say, come on, mate, I'm good enough to play in the Champions League. Why would I drop down to the Europa League where you are now, Ipswich Town? But there is a player not playing European football at all and has stayed with his team since the save began. And I'm a fan of this guy. He moved on from Blackburn to Crystal Palace, and under Oliver Glasner, what a resurgence he had last season. And in half a year, what a story. He went from playing championship football to going to the European Championship final with England. An incredible meteoric rise from a tremendous young passer of the ball, Adam Wharton. Versatile, can play fullback, probably ball playing centre half, but also DM as well. And I'm a big fan of this kid, and I'm going to bring him in. Let's sign him. Yeah, if you ever want an example of how quickly your life can turn around in a positive way, I think look at the story of Adam Wharton. It is very inspiring indeed. He was already living the dream, playing for Blackburn Rovers. Obviously, I think it was his boyhood club, I believe. And, championship football, earning good money, but it exploded in the space of 6 months, getting a big move to Crystal Palace. And like I said, since then, it was all the way up. He developed his game tremendously under Oliver Glasner. I'm pretty sure he's out of contract come the end of the season, so I should be able to get him for under the valuation. He turned his game into a fantastic, versatile player. And they want that's an interesting one. Well, if we don't sign a new striker, I'm going to want at least 3, and that's what we've got right now of Adley, Washington, and Liam as well. So with that being the case, I'm going to say no Crystal Palace. I appreciate it, but he's staying with me. But yeah, he developed his game brilliantly under Glasner. Obviously, I said before last season, Oliver Glasner came midway through the campaign, and what a turnaround he led with Crystal Palace in the second half of the season. And he was so good, Southgate called him up for the England squad, and he made the provisional and the official squad and helped him get to the final. Great rise. And yes, I'm aware he didn't play any minutes at the Euros, but he was still there and thus contributing. Never downplay the role of a good squad player, and that is Adam Wharton for England. But in his Ipswich Town team, he'll certainly get some minutes. Whether he starts in the place of James Garner or not, I'm undecided because I really like the former Toffee, but he's too good to be sat on the bench every single game. Regardless, he's in 5-year deal, 80 grand a week. I'm really excited to use him for the first time ever. A tremendous passer, versatile, and a hard-working individual. He's Doxy Boy sort of player. Welcome to Portman Road, Adam Wharton. Yep, 24 years old, 6 foot, and that's, again, when you look at the stats here, there's no reason why I couldn't turn this guy into a fullback. Absolutely not. I mean, granted, okay, he's not rapid, but he's got enough pace, and granted, he's not got bags of energy, but he's got enough of it, and defensively he's solid with 76 crossing. And for Leif Davis, I mean, the guy had to play every single minute last season, and justifiably so, he's my captain, but at times he might have needed a breather. Didn't really have anyone that I was too convinced could play there. If he was to get an injury long term, I definitely have that guy now. I could certainly see him becoming a left back, if not a makeshift one, or just playing right through the half. And now we'll keep him on balance, let the stats go up, gradually balanced. And will he start or will he come off the bench? I think for now it'll probably be the latter. Yeah, last season if Davis needed a breather, I just said, sorry mate, but I can't afford to give you a rest because you're that good and no one can really fit in and be as effective as you are. Occasionally I played Mumba, but there's a big difference between the ex-Plymouth man and of course the club captain. But now, if we want to, yeah, there's no reason why I couldn't play Adam Wharton there. He's more than good enough to fill in at left back. Okay, alright, team's looking really good now. Team's looking really good. We still got plenty of money, but the question is, do we need to make a signing? I mean, do we need to do anything now? Oh, and there is a bid for Marcus Leonardo, who, to be fair, I quite want. We missed out on him last season, but I would like to bring him in if we are going to go for that new striker. Obviously, there's still the bid for O'Brien. One's coming for Dozzell. I like Jake, though, and again, I haven't got to sell him. He hasn't requested a transfer or anything like that. So with that being the case, I'm going to keep him. I'm going to say, sorry, Gary, but I'm going to keep him with me. And, of course, we're going to keep Dozzell for the homegrown rulings as well. But if O'Brien requests a transfer during the season, I'll happily let him go. But for now, I want to keep him as my third choice, if not now fourth choice, centre-half. So yeah, getting through to the first of the month, as a bid comes in for Hassan, which I'm going to turn down. But yeah, I don't think we need to do anything really. Although to be fair, one thing I might do is try and loan some players out, because we didn't do that last season, and I think it'll be quite important to get my guys. My young guys, I should say, out on loan for this season. So with that being the case, we got a few. Nicholas Price is still at 65 overall. I'll let you know how he's getting on. But for this young lad, Dylan Bates, for Fry, I would like to give him some game time, to be fair, this lad. 75 overall. But is he going to get enough? That's right. I think he still could. But it's going to be tough to fill him in now. He signed Wharton too. They've got another Hassan who was out on loan at West Brom, if I remember. There's Shenjalia, the young Georgian as well. I want to make sure we got enough players for the squad though. I might just keep like one or two young players just to make sure if we have an injury crisis we'll be okay. But I'll try and loan a couple out. And I'm going to keep Joey just as a backup for Ball. Because there's no need to waste money on a backup goalkeeper right now. In fact, can I get Carl back on loan again? Where is he? Where's Carl Hein, the Estonian? He spent 18 months on loan with us so far. And is he... I don't think he has a loan list or a transfer list. But he's been our guy. I want to bring him back, man. I mean, I'd be happy enough bringing in 40-year-old Fraser Forster as a vet, dressing room leader. European, Premier League and international experience too. Maybe not with a 25 kick-in, but the thing is though, it's the wages. Look at this. What, he wants 17 grand a week? Mate, you're basically retired at this point. I mean, honestly, look, I'll put you on 6 or 7, but come on. I know in modern day football, we talked about it earlier with inflation, you got to expect that really, but mate, you're just here to sit on the bench. That's all you're going to be, honestly, at 40 years old. But, yeah, wouldn't be against bringing him in if it was going to be a really cheap wage. But the problem is he wants... And I know when you look at the budget we've got, it's like Doxy boy. Come on, it's not that bad. But I don't know. I wouldn't mind just bringing him in for the squad. To be fair, it'd be quite a nice little thing to do. 8 grand a week, 1 year deal, and he says no. Come on. When you're bartering over 3 grand a week as a European club, when you've got tons of money. I think the reputation cheapskate is probably justified, really. We're going back and forth over this, Fraser, mate. I'm sorry. 11 grand a week, 1 year deal. It's less than Carl Hein to me. Oh, for goodness sake. Do you know what? Fine. I blink. You win. Happy, Fraser? Happy? You get the extra 500 quid a week. Not happy about it. That's coming out of my pocket. Fraser Forster in as a vet. He's going to be cheaper than Carl on loan anyway, even with a wage split, so I'll take it. Yeah, I think we all remember Fraser Forster mostly for his time with Celtic. You know, when he went on loan there from Newcastle, his career really kicked on. But before that, it's worth pointing out, he actually had a loan spell with our East Anglian rivals Norwich, but now he's here just to sit on the bench. As I said before, you don't really need to have a backup goalkeeper. For the most part, you can get away with just having the one, but for peace of mind, it's always worth having someone in. So not needing to pay a transfer fee or much on the weekly wages, I'll take it. And now, the most important thing is that I can loan out Joey Jones. Yeah, last season we recalled him just to sit on the bench, but it really stagnated his development. I think he still has the showing great potential tag, or well, maybe he does, but even so, he'll go back on loan now, and now he can kick on a little bit. As we know, youth players do grow a lot on loan. And I want a good youth player goalkeeper through the academy. Joey's the best we've got so far, so I need to get him first team football. He's not going to get any sat on the bench here, so that's what Fraser's signing does. It allows our young lad to go out on loan. Okay, there you go. And as we have loaned out one of our youngsters, David Hassan, the Tanzanian midfielder, to Nottingham Forest. We'll keep tabs on him during the season playing Premier League football. Let's jump into the first game of the season. It's Brentford away in West London at the G-Tech. And it's so frustrating to think how we won on the final day last season and not bottled it. We'd be in the Champions League right now because we would have leapfrogged Manchester United. But alas, we didn't finish the season strong. We dropped our concentration and thus we end up dropping to the Europa League. For this season, if we are going to stay in the top 4 and be in a title race, which is mine and the board's objective too, we've got to start off better than we did last year, where we really stumbled out of the blocks. We had a draw on match day 1 last season. This year, accepting nothing other than 3 points in the capital. Brentford away at the G-Tech in the first game of the season. Come on, Ipswich Town. I guess the only good thing about going into the Europa League this year is that A, it's more winnable of a competition, I mean obviously, but also B, it just goes to show, you know, life, it's not always progress in a linear direction. Like, sometimes you do take a step back, you know, sometimes you do regress slightly, you know, and that's not to say that it's over, you know, your journey's finished, but it's just a stumbling block on the road, you know, and that's okay. Oh, terrible mistake, and Mudryk capitalises for the opener. You can't always be going forward. I mean, sometimes you will take a step back, and that's okay. That's all right, you know. There's always going to be bumps and stumbling blocks and periods of regression when you're working towards a goal. It doesn't mean the whole, you know, objective has been failed. It just means you've taken a slight step back, and that's okay. That's to be expected in life. It's very easy to believe that when you get into adulthood, you know, if you're progressing towards a goal, you're never going to go backwards. You know, you're always going to go, well done, Ghana, forwards or staying where you are. But that is just not realistic, let me tell you that. You know, there are going to be times where you do have a little stumbling block and you might regress slightly. That is okay. I think what it is, it's like if you're like me and you grew up playing a lot of video games, we know that in video games you don't go backwards. You know, you either progressively just get better and better and better, or you might stay on the same level you are. But that's not life, unfortunately. There are going to be times where you might go backwards slightly. That's okay though. It's all right. It's part of the journey. For Brentford, 5 to go before the break, and header is in, and they've got a goal back, and there will be no clean sheet on his debut for Gonçalo, who got a touch on the ball but couldn't keep it out. Vitali cutting the deficit to 1. Okay, all right, that's fine, but I don't mind too much about conceding because we look great on the offensive end as we look to restore the 2-goal cushion instantly, and almost did. Corner for Brentford as well. I don't know why Gonçalo's on the post though. With the height he's got, it should be the other way around. It should be Davis on the post marking Mascara in the middle, and Gonçalo, Davis on the post and Gonçalo marking Mascara in the middle. It's like that's something that always frustrates me. It's like, why can't you decide who man marks who on set pieces? Sometimes it makes no sense in terms of height differential. I mean, I'm saying that like Leif Davis isn't 6 foot and tall enough to be man marking, you know. It was something you were taught in junior football. You know, you have your big guys on your big guys, and to be fair, Gonçalo is only about an inch or two taller. But even so, it all counts. Every inch matters. And yeah, you put your smaller lads on the post. Anyway, Washington trying to come inside and shoot, and it's denied by Verbruggen, as we're still leading on. It's been a really fun first game of the season, man, I must say. We drew 0-0 at Luton last year. This has been really action-packed, and I definitely think there's another goal on the cards here. Question is, who's going to get the all-important 4th? Brentford levelling? Or Ipswich going 2 goals up again? As Davis wins it back, and oh, that should have been the answer. Adley wide, what a miss. Oh, what a wonderful ball by Guirassy, and Buemo has been causing me problems all game long, man. Brian down the flank once more. Just trying to hold on to this 1-goal lead here. Can't surrender it. Davis winning, mate. And again. And we'll get it back to Bulka and pass our way forward. Yep, got to see this out here. If we would have seen out the win against Brentford on the final day last season, we would have been staying in the Champions League instead. Taught a harsh lesson. Need to make sure we've learnt it. 15 to play. Almost there. With Morgan. Oh, space! Space opens up! Space opens up! Come on! It might be the first game of the season, but it's still a big one. Morgan marking the contract extension with the dagger. Tractor Boys winning on match day 1. Come on! Yeah, it was well documented last season. We really stumbled out of the blocks, drawing on match day 1 to a newly promoted Luton, and then losing on match day 2 to Leeds at home. This season, if we are going to do what the board want, which is to be in a title race, and they say win it, I just want to put the pressure on Man City with their dynasty, 10 titles in 11 years, but at least definitely be back in the Champions League and win the Europa League and reach Wembley as well. We've got to be better from first game to last. We slipped up on match days 1 and 38 last season. This year, we're putting it right. A win on the first game and a controlled 3-1 victory in the capital. But that'll do it for today's episode, guys. So big thank you for watching the season opener. If you've enjoyed it, then please do drop a like. What's up to you all? Have a fantastic day. I will return in the next one with more games in the league, aiming to start the season off far better than last year and have a nice little winning run to begin the campaign. We'll have the draw for the Europa League phase this season, drop into Europe's silver competition, if you will. I will have the rest of the window with over 80 million in the budget. I still think we're not done for new signings yet. Expect at least one more arrival. Have a great day, guys. Much love, and I'll see you for the next episode of Career Mode very soon.